the issue of exchange rate in Haiti. The exchange rate represents the price of a foreign currency in relation to the national currency. It is determined with the fluctuations in supply and demand of the foreign currency. This is also the case of good against dollars in Haiti. It can be certain when it is the number of foreign currency units that can be obtained with a national currency unit, as well as the uncertainty when it is the number of national currency units that must be supplied to have a foreign currency unit. Today, we need 80 for good, 66 for $1. Recently in Haiti, the exchange rate is a problem and it has become a topical issue. Following the COVID-19 crisis and the kidnapping, the sources of dollar inflows are increasingly minimal in Haitian economy. In the country, a large part of the supply of dollar is covered by transfer from the diaspora on the day the funds are received by the beneficiary. BRH circular. A large part of Haitian population lives with transfers coming from the diaspora. Receiving transfers, they used to change dollars to get good, but with these measures, they automatically receive the transfer in good. If they don't have a dollar bank account, sometimes they are forced to buy dollars to make transactions because some services, such as the payment of tuition and the purchase of certain products, are made in dollar. The measure taken by the BRH would undoubtedly be effective if they were to compensate for the depreciation of the national currency and reduce the pressure on dollar demand. BRH body responsible for management issued a circular on September 18, 2020, and which came into force on October 1st, 2020. Banks and transfer houses are required to pay for international transfers in foreign currency if the recipient receives the fund from its deposit account in dollars, domiciled in a financial institution. They will receive goods if the payment receives the payment at any point of service, station, agency, office, kiosk, or on other payment instrument. Payment in goods are made at the reference rate to foreign exchange markets in Haiti. One that is formal and regulated by the BRH, and the other informal that escapes from the control of the BRH. In the formal market, the BRH rate is respected. However, it is difficult for a person to be able to buy the amount of dollar needed on the formal market, specifically in the banks. It is also difficult for a person who has received his transfer on his bank account to obtain his money in a very short time. Sometimes he is forced to wait for several weeks. Facing these situations, he goes on the informal market. On this market, a fixed rate is not applied. Currently, the exchange rate on the informal market varies between 100 and 105 good for $1, and sometimes even much more. This increase in the informal market is mainly the result of the scarcity of the dollar and the shenanigans of those who hold the dollar. Facing this situation, the Ministry of Commerce should accompany the BRH by forcing private companies, services or commercial, to raise prices in goods to relieve Haitians. However, BRH can also stop this measure or try to have control over the informal market, or at least curb it. and it can also force the hand of commercial banks to make the dollar available on the market. As long as the situation remains, Haitians will continue to complain on the media and on social networks, and also they will continue to fall into poverty.